What's going on? Welcome to the final video of the Remodeler SEO series. Now I know it's been a long time since I've made one of these videos, but it came to my attention that I needed to finish this, and what we're missing in this series of 8 videos is one video just to tie them all together. So that's what this one's going to be all about. I'm going to just briefly touch on what I talked about already and try to explain in the clearest way possible maybe how you should think about doing SEO for yourself, if that's what you're doing, or if you're doing it for somebody else, how you should think about SEO in a way that's going to help you get better results. And better results at the end of the day, at least for me and my clients, is getting more sales. I get a lot of calls from people who they want us to do SEO for them, right? And they're very concerned about keywords and ranking #1 on Google and things like that. And they'll say things like, oh, I like my website. My website doesn't need to change. I just need to rank #1 on Google. And, I understand why they think this way, because when you talk to a bunch of SEO companies, people that sell SEO services, this is how they angle everything. Everything is about ranking for certain keywords at the top of search. And I guess at the most technical level, you could say that's what SEO is all about. But when I talk about SEO, I'm talking about getting more phone calls. I'm talking about getting more sales, more customers. At the end of the day, I really don't care about ranking #1 on Google for anything. I care about getting sales. If ranking #1 is going to help me get more sales, and that's the best way forward for getting more sales, then yes, then I will care about that. But people call me and they say, oh, well, my website's great already. I just need to rank #1 on Google. I ask them a couple things. First of all, if your website sucks, but it's on top of Google, is that going to help you? And the answer is no, because you could show your website to everybody on the face of the earth, but if it is not what they're looking for, or it just does not make you look professional, then it's not going to do anything for you. You could have 1 million people look at it, but you're going to get 0 phone calls, and you're going to be in the same place you are now, only you spent a bunch of money ranking #1 for something. The other thing I ask them, or at least explain to them, is how you rank on Google is determined by what's on your website. There's no way to change how you rank on Google without changing your website. And if you're an SEO expert, I can hear them already like, oh, there's other things you can do. You could do link building and you can do this and that. Yes, there are a couple things you can do. But the easiest thing to do and the quickest way to get results is to just change what's on your website. And at the core of all of this is making your website, you're building your website for customers, building it for the people who are searching on Google, who are looking to hire you for your services. Everything you do should be for them. And I said this in the very first video. This is like the core philosophy of our SEO strategy is build it for them. It's like that movie, Field of Dreams. If you build it, they will come. That's how your website is. If you make your website the best option for people searching on Google, then Google is going to want to show you on top of Google. Because Google's #1 goal is showing the best search results, right? That's why people use Google in the first place. So if you can make your website the best option to show people, then they're gonna show you on top. That's what it's all about. You can get super technical and go really deep and focus on the keywords and the headings and the URLs and title tags and image alt tags and all that kind of stuff. But when you're doing that, you should be doing that from the angle of I'm trying to make this as good for my customers as I possibly can. And if you keep that in the forefront of your mind as you're working on your marketing, as you're working on your sales, on your business, you will be the most successful. Because at the end of the day, we're all here in business to add value to our customers' lives, to give them a great experience. And the businesses that can achieve that are going to be successful. You could have the best SEO on the planet, but if you can't give your customers a good experience, it will all be for naught. It won't do anything for you. So I'm going to write some notes here on my tablet and share it here on the screen with you so that you can see what I see. But the most important thing is your customers. Everything is for them. And as I already explained, like, being found is not what it's all about. That's only half the battle. You want to be found on Google, yes, because if no one ever sees you, you could have the best website on the planet and it's not going to do anything for you. But on the flip side, you could show your website to everybody in the world, and if your website isn't good, it's not going to do anything for you. You need two sides of the coin. You need both of those. You need to be found on Google, and you need to be what people are looking for on Google. If you can be both of those things, then you'll be able to get results from SEO. Here's an interesting way of thinking about it. I always try to relate these things to construction because that's the world that I grew up in, and that's most of our clients are construction companies. So, like, you can compare SEO to building a house, or not building a house, painting a house. And a lot of people, like, if I asked a painting contractor, is painting a house like a one-off project, or is it an iterable process? Iterable process means something that you do over and over again. And I think a lot of people would say that it's a one-off project. Like, at the most basic level, you pick the paint color and the paint, you decide how you're going to apply the paint, and then you apply the paint and you're done with the job. And that's true on a micro level. But if you zoom out on that, it becomes an iterable process, because you don't just paint a house once and then it lasts forever. You need to paint that house every 10, every 20 years or whatever, and it becomes an iterable process. So you paint it once, you paint, and then 10 years later you paint again, and 10 years later you paint again, and it happens over and over again. And that's how SEO is. SEO is not something that you just do one time and it's done forever. It's something that you're constantly doing over and over again. You apply SEO, you go through this course that I just made you. You go through each part, you pick your keywords, your headings, your URLs, your title tags. You change all those things to the best of your ability today. And then you have to measure the results. So you have to wait for some time to go by, and you use the analytics tools that I explained in video 7, and you measure the results. You go to Google and you type in your keywords and you see where you show up. Did things improve? Did they get worse? And you gather the data from that, and you look at that data to figure out what worked and what didn't. And then you start over again. You make a new hypothesis. You decide what kind of changes you might be able to make to get the whole thing to work better. You make those changes. You wait for some time to pass. You measure the results. You gather data. You make some new hypothesis. You apply more SEO. You're doing this all the time. And that's why when you hire a good SEO company, you don't just hire them for one project and it's done. You hire them on usually a monthly basis or even a yearly basis, and they're constantly going through this process for you. And that's marketing happens on an iterative level, and it happens on a micro level, like for each customer. Like, if you think about it from sales, when you move a customer through the sales process, you're identifying their particular problems or their concerns, what exactly they want, what their price range is, what kind of house they have, what kind of project you're going to do for them, how you're going to do it. All of that is customized to that person. And your marketing is the same way. Every person that is exposed to your marketing is going to have different problems, different concerns, and different needs. And a different aspect of your marketing will apply to them. But all of your marketing won't apply to every single customer. And the chances of you being able to capture all of those customers in one go around is nil. It's never going to happen. That's why marketing is an iterable process, because you have to put yourself out there, measure the results, see how it works, and keep doing that over and over again. It never ends. And hopefully you get better at it as time goes on and you get better and better results. And eventually it becomes pretty easy for you to make sure that this thing keeps working, that customers keep coming in, and it won't take a ton of work because you'll be so good at it. But I think most people watching this are probably in the beginning of their marketing and their SEO journey. And you have to realize that, like, this isn't something you're just going to be able to figure out one time and then be done with it forever. You're not going to be able to figure this all out at once. You have to go through this process, do the best you can, take action and execute your plan, whatever it might be, and then measure the results, and then gather the data, make a new plan, execute that plan, and do this over and over again. And by the fourth or fifth time, after 6 months of going through and addressing each of these topics that I made these videos about, 4 times over 6 months, at the end of that 6 months, you're going to have a pretty good idea of what's going on. You're going to understand this stuff a lot better, and you're going to have a whole bunch of experience to look back on and be able to, learn from that and know what you're doing. We as humans, we learn from experience. So going through this process over and over again is going to give you the experience you need to do this. I talked about Google Maps. Google Maps is going to be your best friend if you're a local business, which you are if you're a remodeler. So pay attention to what's going on Google Maps. Are you showing up? Be looking at the analytics in there. How many calls are you getting? When you make a round of changes on your website, look at your analytics on Google Maps and see if you saw an increase or a decrease. Keep in mind seasonalities. In the spring, it's probably going to be a lot busier than in the winter when it's Christmas time and nobody wants to work on their house. Summertime is probably going to be a lot busier than fall. Like, I don't know. You should know your busy times, but that will fluctuate, and you'll see it in your analytics. So don't let that mislead you and make you think like, oh my God, it's not working. I messed something up, because you're going into Thanksgiving and Christmas and nobody's wanting to work on their house right now. So, this is a long-term thing, and if you can zoom out on this and look at it over the long term, this stuff will start to make more sense. So go through all these things, go through these videos, make these changes, take notes on what you're doing, because you're going to want to do this again in a few months and learn from your experience. So if you have any questions, please leave them in the comments section. This does conclude the Remodeler SEO series. So if there's anything that you think I should have covered, please let me know. And if you like this kind of content and you want to learn more about marketing and business and sales for construction companies, click on the subscribe button so you can get notified when I release new videos. And I'll look forward to seeing you on the next one.